The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was bigger than most cities. Thousands of alien beings filled the floating seats that hung in the air like glowing bubbles. The dome above them showed the stars outside, spinning slowly as the massive space station turned. Ambassador Lee Minho walked across the smooth floor toward the human-speaking area. His black suit looked plain next to the bright colors and strange shapes of the alien delegates around him. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others floated in tanks of glowing gas. A few looked like giant insects with crystal wings. Minho had been Earth's voice in this place for 10 years. He had seen many votes, many arguments, and many times when the older alien races treated humans like children who did not understand the galaxy. Dr. Park Hana sat in the human section behind him. She held a small device that contained information about a terrible danger coming from outside their galaxy. For months she had tried to warn the council. For months they had ignored her. "The human delegate may speak," said Speaker Xiphon. The ethereal looked like a tall shadow made of blue light. Its voice echoed in everyone's mind rather than their ears. Minho stood up. "Thank you, Speaker. I come before you today to ask the Council to listen to our warning one more time. Our scientists have found proof that something dangerous is coming from the dark space beyond our galaxy." A sound like breaking glass filled the hall. That was how the crystalline beings laughed. High Chancellor Veltus of the Vorthak hegemony rose from his golden throne. He looked like a giant lizard covered in silver scales. "The humans speak of danger again," Veltus said. His voice was deep and cold. "They always see threats where none exist. This is why they are too young for real responsibility in galactic affairs." Minho felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice calm. "Chancellor, if you would just look at our data—" "We have seen your data," interrupted Speaker Xiphon. "Your computer models are based on patterns that our science does not recognize. The Ethereal Collective has studied the void between galaxies for millions of years. Nothing lives there." In the gallery above, Captain Kim Daeho watched the scene with growing anger. He commanded one of Earth's newest warships. He had seen what human technology could do. But here, in this place of ancient pride, human achievements meant nothing. "The Council calls for the vote on Resolution 847X, announced the Speaker. Minho's heart sank. They were not even going to discuss the threat. Instead, they would vote on the proposal to limit human expansion to their current 200 star systems. "This resolution is necessary," said Chancellor Corvida of the Tentacled Merchants. Her voice bubbled like water. "Humans expand too fast. They change too much. They upset the balance we have kept for thousands of years. The human species shows concerning patterns," added General Kekstar of the insectoid swarms. His mandibles clicked as he spoke. "They adapt their technology every few years. This chaos threatens galactic stability." Dr. Park Hana stood up. "May I speak?" Speaker Xiphon's light dimmed with annoyance. The human scientist may address the council briefly. Hana activated her device. A hologram appeared above the hall, showing their galaxy surrounded by dark space. 3 months ago, our deep space sensors detected massive objects moving through the void. They are still far away, but they are heading directly toward us. Based on their size and speed, they will reach our galaxy in less than 2 years. "Computer errors," said Professor Thinala of the Gaseous Confederation. "Your technology is new and unreliable." "We have checked our data 100 times, Hana replied. "We have asked for help to confirm what we found, but no one will work with us. Because working with humans is like trying to hold water," said Elder Murthon of the Ancient Collective. "You change everything you touch. Your presence here has already altered too many traditions." Minho stepped forward again. "If we are wrong about the threat, then limiting our expansion does no harm. But if we are right, you will need every ship, every weapon, and every mind in the galaxy to survive what is coming." "The vote will proceed," Speaker Xiphon announced. The massive display above the hall lit up with thousands of lights. Each light was a vote. Green meant yes to the resolution. Red meant no. For several minutes, the lights appeared one by one. Captain Kim Daeho counted the votes as they came in. The Vorthak hegemony voted yes, all 400 of their systems. The Crystalline Confederation followed with their 300 votes. The Ethereal Collective added another 200. Only 12 votes appeared in red. The humans had 20 votes for their systems, but they could not vote on a resolution about themselves. A few small species that traded with Earth voted no, but they were tiny voices in the vast hall. The final count appeared in burning letters above them. 847 votes for the resolution. 12 votes against. Resolution 847X passes, Speaker Xiphon declared. The human species will limit their expansion to their current territory. They will also submit all new technology to council review before development. The hall filled with the sounds of approval from hundreds of different species. Clicking, humming, whistling, and other noises that meant happiness in their various languages. Minho looked around the great chamber. These beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had seen the rise and fall of countless species. They believed their way was the only way to keep peace among the stars. Ambassador Minho, Speaker Xiphon said, "Do the humans accept this decision?" Minho was quiet for a long moment. He thought about Earth, where his wife and children waited for him to come home. He thought about the human colonies scattered across 200 star systems. He thought about the young human scientists like Dr. Park Hana, who wanted nothing more than to learn and to help. Finally, he spoke. The Terran Alliance has been a member of this council for 200 years. In that time, we have shared our discoveries freely. We have helped build the trade networks that connect your worlds. We have defended systems that could not defend themselves. He paused and looked directly at Chancellor Veltis. But if this council believes that humanity is too dangerous to grow, too chaotic to be trusted, then perhaps humanity should not remain in this council. A hush fell over the hall. In all the thousands of years of the Galactic Council, no species had ever chosen to leave. "You cannot be serious," Chancellor Veltis said. "Leaving the council means giving up all trade agreements, all security treaties, all scientific cooperation." "Yes," Minho replied. "It does." Speaker Xiphon's light flickered with what might have been concern. "Ambassador, consider carefully. Your species would be alone among the stars." "We were alone when we first reached space," Minho said. "We learned to survive then. We can learn again." Dr. Park Hana stood beside him. "If the council will not listen to our warnings about the threat from beyond, then perhaps we should focus on preparing our own people for what is coming." Captain Kim Daeho descended from the gallery to join them. Other humans in the hall began moving toward their delegates. "This is foolish pride," said General Kekstar. "The humans will realize their mistake within a year and beg to return." Minho shook his head. "No, General, we will not beg." He turned to address the entire council one final time. "The Terran Alliance withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We wish you peace and prosperity." He began walking toward the exit. Dr. Park Hana and Captain Kim Daeho followed. Soon all the humans in the hall were leaving together. As they reached the great doors, Minho heard Speaker Xiphon call out behind them. "The humans may return when they have learned wisdom and restraint." Minho did not turn around. "Perhaps," he said quietly. "It is time for the galaxy to learn what wisdom really means." The doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Outside, human ships were already preparing to leave the station. Within hours, every human representative would be gone from council space. In the Great Hall, the alien delegates returned to their normal business, discussing trade routes and mining rights. None of them noticed the small warning device that Dr. Park Hana had left behind on her seat. Its screen still showed the dark objects moving through the void, growing larger and closer with each passing day. The Galactic Council had made their choice. Now they would live with the consequences. 3 months had passed since the humans left the Galactic Council. At first, many alien species thought nothing would change. Humans were only one species among thousands. Their absence would barely be noticed. They were wrong. Dr. Yoon Jiho packed the last of his medical equipment into storage containers aboard his ship. For 15 years, he had worked at the Central Medical Station on Kepler Prime, the biggest hospital in council space. His research had helped cure diseases that had killed billions across dozens of species. "Doctor, please reconsider," said his assistant, a tall blue being called Nexara from the Aquatic Federations. "Your adaptive medicine techniques have saved my people from 3 different plagues." Jiho sealed the container and looked around his empty laboratory. "I'm sorry, Nexara, but Earth has called all humans home. We're no longer welcome in council space. But your research, the protein sequencers, the genetic adapters, without them we can't treat new diseases." "You have the basic designs," Jiho said. "Your own scientists can continue the work." Nexara's skin changed from blue to pale yellow, showing her distress. Our people don't think like humans do. We follow proven methods. We don't experiment and change things every day like you do. That was the problem, Jiho thought. Human medicine worked because it adapted constantly. When a virus changed, human doctors changed their treatment. When a new disease appeared, human researchers tried dozens of different approaches until something worked. The alien species were brilliant, but they preferred stability. They used the same treatments for centuries because those treatments had always worked before. Good luck, Jiho said, and meant it. He liked Nexara and her people. But Earth had made its choice clear. If the Council didn't want human chaos, then the Council could solve its problems without human help. On the other side of the galaxy, engineer Cho Sujin was shutting down the quantum construction project on Rigel 7. The massive space station was half-built, its metal bones reaching out toward the stars like the skeleton of some giant creature. Engineer Cho, said Foreman Kultek of the insectoid swarms, the project will die without your nanoconstructors. Sujin looked up at the unfinished station. It was supposed to be a trade hub that would connect 12 different star systems. The human-designed nanomachines could build in space without needing workers in dangerous vacuum suits. They could repair themselves and adapt to different materials. The basic programming is in your computers, she said. Your people are smart. You'll figure it out. But even as she said it, Sujin knew they wouldn't. The nanoconstructors required constant updates and adjustments. Each piece of space debris, each solar flare, each tiny change in temperature required the machines to adapt their building patterns. Alien engineers were excellent at following plans, but they struggled with the constant improvisation that made human technology work. The construction will take 10 times longer without your methods, Kultek said. His mandibles clicked with frustration. Then you have 10 times longer to get it right, Sujin replied. She boarded her ship and lifted off, leaving the half-finished station hanging in space like a monument to broken cooperation. Merchant Captain Jang Woojin stood in his empty warehouse on Meridian 7, one of the biggest trading worlds in Council space. For 20 years he had sold human goods throughout the galaxy. Human tools that lasted twice as long as alien equivalents. Human computers that could solve problems their creators had never imagined. Human weapons that adapted to different fighting styles. Captain, said his business partner, Velnox of the Crystalline Confederation, your departure will destroy the market for quality goods. Woojin watched as the last shipping container was loaded onto his freighter. The Council voted to limit human expansion. That includes trade expansion. We're simply following their wishes. Velnox's crystal body flashed with worried orange light. The quantum processors alone. No one else makes devices that efficient. Our people will have to use inferior equipment. Your own manufacturers will improve their products, Woojin said. Competition breeds innovation. But they both knew that wasn't true. Alien manufacturers had grown lazy, relying on human innovation to push the galaxy forward. Without human competition, there was no pressure to improve. The economic disruption will affect every system, Velnox warned. Woojin shrugged. Then perhaps the Council should have thought about economics before they voted. The most devastating changes happened in places the Council barely noticed. Admiral Song Mira commanded the Human Defense Fleet's patrol squadrons. These ships didn't fight wars. They stopped pirates, rescued stranded vessels, and kept the trade routes safe. The alien species had their own military forces, but those were designed for major conflicts between star systems. The day-to-day security that kept commerce flowing had quietly become a human responsibility. Admiral, said her communications officer, Lieutenant Beijina, we're receiving distress calls from 17 different sectors. Song looked at the tactical display. Red lights marked pirate attacks across the galaxy. For decades, these raids had been rare because human ships responded quickly to threats. But now the human fleet was pulling back to their own territory. Orders from Earth? She asked. Protect human shipping and human systems only, Gina replied. All other requests for assistance are to be politely declined. Song felt sick, but she understood the logic. If the Council wanted to limit human influence, then they would have to handle their own security problems. Send a message to Council Defense Command, she ordered. Inform them that human patrols are ending. They'll need to deploy their own ships to maintain order. Within days, the effects were visible across the galaxy. Shipping costs doubled as companies hired private security. Trade routes that had been safe for generations became dangerous again. Small worlds that had relied on human protection found themselves defenseless against raiders. Defense Minister Thackalon of the Reptilian Dominion sent increasingly urgent messages to the Council. Our outer colonies are under attack. Where are the rapid response fleets? The answer came back from Speaker Xiphon. The Council military will be reorganized to address new requirements. But reorganizing took time. The ancient alien military forces were designed for massive, formal conflicts. They had huge battleships and planet-destroying weapons, but they moved slowly and couldn't respond to small, fast threats. President Bayek Hyunsu of the Terran Alliance sat in his office on Earth, reading reports from across human space. His advisors had warned him that leaving the Council would be costly. They were right, but not in the way anyone had expected. "Sir," said his aide, Secretary Kim Youngman, "trade with Council species has dropped by 80%, but internal human trade has increased by 200%. "Explain," Beck said. "Without alien trade partners, human colonies are trading more with each other. They're also developing technologies faster because they don't have to share everything with the Council." Beck looked at the development reports. Human scientists, freed from the requirement to get Council approval for new research, were making breakthroughs every month. Human shipyards, no longer building vessels to alien specifications, were designing faster and more efficient ships. "What about the economic impact on Council space?" he asked. Kim's expression grew serious, severe. Human goods were integrated into almost every aspect of Council commerce. Without them, entire industries are collapsing. "Any word from the Council directly?" "Several unofficial messages suggesting we reconsider our departure." "Nothing official." Beck stood and walked to his window, looking out at the busy spaceport where human ships came and went. "What's the status of Dr. Park Hana's research?" "She's confirmed the approaching threat. Whatever's coming from outside the galaxy is definitely hostile, and definitely headed our way. Estimated arrival in 18 months. Has she tried to warn the Council again?" "3 times. Her messages were returned unopened." Beck sighed. The aliens had made their choice when they refused to listen to human warnings. Now they would have to face the consequences alone, unless they swallowed their pride and asked for help. On the rim of Council space, pirates struck another convoy. The merchant ships called for help, but no human vessels responded. The few Council patrol ships in the area arrived 6 hours too late to find anything but wreckage and empty space. In the Crystalline Confederation, a computer virus infected their entire communication network. The virus adapted faster than their security programs could stop it. Normally, they would have called human cybersecurity experts for help. Now they could only watch as decades of data were corrupted. In the Vorthak hegemony, Chancellor Velthus received a report that made his silver blood run cold. Intelligence sources indicated that human technology development had increased by 400% since leaving the Council. Worse, human ships had been spotted beyond the galactic rim, exploring areas that the Council had declared too dangerous for centuries. "What are they doing out there?" he asked his intelligence minister. "Unknown, Chancellor. Our ships cannot match their new exploration technology." Velthus felt a chill of fear. For the first time, he wondered if forcing the humans to leave had been a mistake. But his pride wouldn't let him admit error. Not yet. The galaxy was learning, slowly and painfully, what it meant to function without human innovation. 6 months after humanity left the Council, the galaxy began to break down in ways no one had expected. Xenobiologist Krental of the insectoid swarms stood in his laboratory, staring at samples that should have been impossible. The bioplague attacking their outer colonies was unlike anything in their medical databases. It changed faster than their treatments could adapt. "Status report," he clicked to his assistant. "Kixara, Colony 7 is completely infected. Colony 12 is showing early symptoms. The plague adapts to every treatment we try." Krental's compound eyes reflected his frustration. For 3 centuries, insectoid medicine had followed the same proven methods. When a disease appeared, they identified it, found the correct treatment from their vast libraries, and applied it. The system had always worked. "Have we tried treatment protocol 847? He asked. "Yes, sir. The plague adapted to it within 6 hours. Protocol 1203? Adapted in 4 hours. Krental felt his exoskeleton itch with anxiety. "Contact the aquatic federations. Their biomedicine might have different approaches." 3 days later, the response came back. The aquatic doctors had tried their best treatments too. Nothing worked. The plague seemed to learn from every attack and grow stronger. "Sir," Kixara said quietly, "should we contact the humans?" Krental's mandibles twitched. That thought had occurred to him many times. Human medicine worked differently than anyone else's. Where other species used proven methods, humans experimented constantly. They tried combinations that seemed crazy, mixed treatments that had never been combined before and somehow made them work. "The humans are no longer part of the council," he said finally. "Besides, they probably wouldn't help us anyway." But even as he said it, Krental knew he was lying to himself. Humans had always been generous with medical aid, even to species that treated them poorly. Dr. Yoon Jiho had saved millions of insectoid lives during the viral crisis of 2387. Now Dr. Jiho was gone, and with him the adaptive thinking that might save them. Trade Administrator Velnox of the Crystalline Confederation faced a different crisis. Her people communicated through light patterns that flashed through their crystal bodies. For thousands of years, this had been enough for their slow, careful society. But the modern galaxy moved too fast for traditional methods. Human shipping companies had handled most interstellar cargo because they could adapt to changes instantly. When a route became dangerous, they found new paths. When a planet's needs changed, they adjusted deliveries. Now, without human adaptability, the entire trade network was collapsing. "Delivery time for medical supplies to Sector 7? Velnox asked her assistant. 4 months, Administrator." 4 months? It used to be 4 days. "Yes, ma'am. But without human jump drive technology, our ships must use the old hyperlane routes. And without human logistics software, we can't calculate efficient paths." Velnox's crystal body flashed dark red with frustration. "What about hiring other species to handle shipping? The reptilian dominion charges 3 times what humans did, and their delivery rate is only 60%. The tentacled merchants are faster but only work with luxury goods. The problem was deeper than just shipping. Human traders had served as neutral intermediaries between species that didn't trust each other. A crystalline world could trade with an insectoid colony through human merchants, even though the two species had been enemies centuries ago. Without humans, old prejudices were returning. Trade agreements were falling apart. Economic cooperation was being replaced by suspicion and competition. Environmental Minister Zephyra of the gaseous beings faced the worst crisis of all. Her people lived in artificial atmosphere bubbles on planets that couldn't naturally support their gas-based life form. The atmospheric processors that maintained their environments were incredibly complex hybrid systems, part technology, part living organism. Only human engineers truly understood how these systems worked. The original designers had been from 12 different species, but human engineers had maintained and improved them for decades. "Status of Processor Complex 17? She asked her technical team. "Failing, Minister. The organic components are rejecting the technological interfaces. Have we tried Standard Repair Protocol 4? "Yes, Minister. The system compensated around our repairs and continued degrading." Zephyra felt her gaseous form ripple with worry. "How long until complete failure?" 2 months, possibly less. Without the atmospheric processors, 17 billion gaseous beings would die. They had sent message after message to human space begging for technical assistance. All had been politely declined. Earth's new policy was clear. No aid to council species except in cases of mutual benefit. "What about the backup processors?" "Also failing, Minister. All of our atmospheric systems were designed as integrated networks. When one fails, it affects all the others." High Chancellor Velthus of the Vorthak hegemony read intelligence reports that made his situation clear. Human technology development had not just increased, it had exploded into realms the Council couldn't understand. "Explain these readings," he demanded of his science advisor. Dr. Morkan. "The humans appear to have developed quantum drives that operate at efficiency levels we thought were impossible. How much more efficient than our drives? Conservative estimates suggest 200% improvement. Possibly more." Veltus felt his silver scales tighten with anxiety. "What about their defensive capabilities?" "Unknown, Chancellor. But our long-range sensors have detected energy signatures from human space that don't match any known weapon systems." "Could they threaten us?" Dr. Morkan's tail twitched nervously. "Sir, based on their rate of advancement, human military capability likely exceeds our own by a significant margin." The Chancellor had spent his life believing that Vorthak technology was the finest in the galaxy. Their ancient civilization, had perfected their methods over millennia. But humans had been improving their technology constantly for centuries, making small advances that added up to revolutionary changes. What about their exploration activities? This is perhaps most concerning, Chancellor. Human ships have been detected in the void regions beyond the galactic rim, areas we have forbidden exploration of for good reason. The void regions are death traps. Nothing can survive in dark space, okay? Apparently human technology can. Our monitoring stations have tracked at least 50 human vessels operating in the void. They appear to be conducting systematic exploration. Veltis felt a chill deeper than physical cold. The galaxy's greatest civilizations had explored the void regions long ago and found them empty, hostile, and dangerous. Ancient records spoke of things that lived in the darkness between galaxies, things that were better left undisturbed. Are they finding anything out there? Unknown, Chancellor. Human communication methods have advanced beyond our ability to intercept. Military strategist Culvera presented her analysis to the Emergency Council session 3 days later. The assembled delegates listened in growing alarm as she detailed the collapse of galactic infrastructure. Medical systems are failing across 17 sectors. Trade networks have broken down in 43 systems. Atmospheric maintenance is critical on 12 worlds. Piracy has increased by 800%. Speaker Xiphon's light flickered with concern. Recommended solutions? The Council military could be deployed for security. But our ships are designed for large-scale conflicts, not anti-piracy operations. Medical aid could be provided, but our methods are not effective against adaptive diseases. Economic support is available, but without human logistics networks, distribution would be extremely inefficient. What about recruiting other species to fill human roles? Attempted, Speaker. No other species combines human adaptability with their technical knowledge. Some can replicate individual human technologies, but none can improve and modify them as humans did. Chancellor Veltis spoke from his golden throne. What are your estimates of human capabilities if conflict became necessary? Culvera's report made the hall fall silent. Conservative analysis suggests that human military capacity has increased by 400% since their departure. Their exploration activities indicate technological advances we cannot match. In a hypothetical conflict, Council victory would be unlikely. Speaker Xiphon's light dimmed to almost nothing. Are you suggesting that humanity has become a threat to the Council? No, Speaker. Intelligence indicates that humans have not developed any offensive capabilities targeting Council space. However, they have clearly prioritized defense and exploration technologies. They appear to be preparing for something we are not aware of. In the gallery, Ambassador Kilrex of the Aquatic Federations raised a tentacle. Perhaps it is time to consider reopening communications with the Terran Alliance. The suggestion caused an uproar. Half the delegates began speaking at once in dozens of different languages. The idea of admitting error, of asking humans to return, was unthinkable to the proud ancient civilizations. But as the weeks passed and the crisis deepened, more voices began suggesting the same thing. Emergency medical situations that required adaptive solutions, trade disputes that needed neutral mediation, technical problems that demanded creative thinking, all problems that humans had solved quietly and efficiently for centuries, while the Council barely noticed their contributions. 1 year after humanity left the Council, Admiral Kim Sang-woo stood on the bridge of the Deep Space Monitoring Station HSS Watchkeeper. His ship floated in the dark void beyond the galactic rim, further from home than any human had ever traveled. Contact on long-range sensors, reported his scanner operator, Lieutenant Oh Seung-hee. Multiple objects bearing 7 Mark 15. Sang-woo moved to the tactical display. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. Massive shapes moved through the darkness of space. Ships larger than cities, hundreds of them, all heading toward their galaxy. Size estimate? The smallest vessels are approximately 50 kilometers long. The largest, Oh paused, checking her readings twice. Sir, the largest is bigger than our moon. Distance? 6 months out at current speed. Sang-woo felt ice in his veins. This was what Dr. Park Hana had tried to warn the Council about. The threat from beyond the galaxy was real, and it was almost here. Send a priority message to Earth Command immediately. Code Black Emergency. Yes, sir. Should we also warn the Galactic Council? Sang-woo hesitated. The Council had thrown humanity out of galactic affairs. They had ignored human warnings about this exact threat, but billions of innocent lives hung in the balance. Send the warning to both Earth and the Council. Use all emergency frequencies. The message traveled across space at faster than light speeds. On Earth, President Song Yunju received the alert in her Situation Room. The holographic display showed the approaching fleet in terrifying detail. Analysis? She asked her military advisors. Fleet Admiral Park Tae-jun stepped forward. 500,000 vessels minimum. Technology appears to be adaptive. Their ships change configuration while we watch them. Energy signatures suggest weapons that can modify themselves during combat. Our defensive capabilities? Earth Defense Force has 80,000 ships. Quality is high, but we're outnumbered 6-1. Defense Secretary Nam So-young activated another display. However, our withdrawal from council politics has allowed us to focus entirely on military development. Our new Phoenix Protocol ships are unlike anything we've built before. She showed images of sleek human vessels that seem to shift and flow like living things. Adaptive armor, quantum consciousness networks, weapons that evolve during battle. Each ship learns from every engagement and shares that knowledge with the entire fleet instantly. President Song studied the displays. Are we ready for them? We're as ready as we can be, Admiral Park replied. But we'll need every advantage we can get. Meanwhile, the same message reached the Galactic Council. Emergency Session Leader Morden called an immediate meeting as alarms echoed through the Great Hall. Report, he demanded as delegates hurried to their seats. Defense Coordinator. Felthak activated the tactical display. The approaching fleet appeared above the assembled aliens like a dark storm cloud. Confirmed threat approaching from extragalactic space. Human long-range sensors detected them 6 months before our own systems registered anything. Speaker Xiphon's light flickered rapidly. Fleet composition? Unknown ship types. Energy signatures indicate technology at least equivalent to our own, possibly superior. Estimated numbers exceed our combined defensive capability by a factor of 10. Chancellor Veltis rose from his throne. What are our options? Limited. Our fleet consists of 50,000 vessels designed for defensive operations. The approaching force appears to be a full invasion fleet. Elder Murthon of the Ancient Collective spoke in his whispery voice. Perhaps they come in peace. Not all contact with unknown species results in conflict. As if in answer to his words, the communication screens around the hall lit up with reports from the outer rim. Scout Fleet 7, under attack, unknown. Vessels, they're consuming our ships. The transmission cut to static. Patrol Group 12, massive hostiles. Engaging, they're not trying to capture. Another signal died. Colony World Epsilon, the entire planet. They're stripping it for materials, evacuating now. The hall fell silent except for the hum of machinery. The truth was undeniable. The approaching fleet was hostile, powerful, and completely ruthless. Defensive recommendations? Morden asked. Belthak's report was grim. Our ships are designed for formal warfare between civilized species. These attackers use tactics and weapons we don't understand. They adapt to our defenses faster than we can modify them. What about requesting aid from non-council species? The Neutral Alliance has 12,000 ships, but they're primarily merchant vessels. The independent colonies could contribute perhaps 5,000 combat-capable ships. Still not enough. In the silence that followed, Ambassador Kilrex of the Aquatic Federation spoke the words everyone was thinking, but no one wanted to say. What about the humans? The question hung in the air like poison gas. For a long moment, no one responded. Finally, Chancellor Velthis spoke. The humans were expelled from this council for being too chaotic and unpredictable. Their chaos might be exactly what we need now, Kilrex replied. Human military doctrine emphasizes adaptation and innovation. Our intelligence reports suggest their technology has advanced significantly since they left. Speaker Xiphon's light pulsed slowly. Even if we wished to request human assistance, they would likely refuse. We rejected their warnings about this exact threat. Have we tried asking them? Elder Murthon shook his head. It would be admitting that we were wrong. The ancient civilizations do not make such admissions lightly. But even as the old aliens debated pride and politics, more reports arrived from the outer rim. The attackers were not slowing down. They were accelerating toward the heart of the galaxy. Captain Li Jiyan of the human monitoring station HSS Sentinel watched the enemy fleet through her enhanced sensors. Her mission was simple, observe and report, but what she saw made her break protocol. Communications. Open a channel to the lead enemy vessel. Ma'am, Orders are to maintain silent observation. Open the channel. Lieutenant? The screen flickered, then showed something that made Jion's skin crawl. The creatures on the enemy bridge looked like a nightmare combination of metal and flesh. Their technology seemed to be alive, pulsing and growing even as she watched. Unknown vessels, she broadcast. You are approaching inhabited space. State your intentions. The response came in a voice like grinding metal. We are the Devourers. We consume. We grow, we spread. Your matter will become our matter. Your energy will become our energy. This galaxy is protected. Turn back now or face resistance. Something that might have been laughter echoed from the speakers. Your defenses are known to us. We have consumed 1,000 galaxies. All resistance becomes part of us. The transmission cut off. Jion stared at the dark screen, feeling cold fear in her stomach. These weren't conquerors or colonists. They were something far worse, a force that consumed everything in its path and used the materials to grow stronger. She opened a new channel to Earth Command. Priority message for Admiral Park and President Song. The approaching force calls itself the Devourers. They're not here to conquer us. They're here to consume us completely. Back on Earth, the President's War Council received Jion's report with growing alarm. They consume matter and convert it to more ships, reported Chief Engineer Nam So-young. Every battle makes them stronger, regardless of whether they win or lose. How do you fight something like that? Asked Admiral Park. You don't fight it conventionally, replied Dr. Lim Sunho, head of Human Scientific Development. Our Phoenix protocol might work, but it would require perfect coordination and adaptation faster than anything we've ever attempted. President Song looked around the room at her advisors. Are we ready to face this threat alone? We'll have to be, Admiral Park said. The Council made their choice when they expelled us. As if summoned by his words, the communication alert chimed. A message from the Galactic Council, marked with the highest priority codes. The message was simple and desperate. Request immediate assistance. The galaxy needs humanity's help. President Song read the message twice, then looked at her council. Opinions? They threw us out, Admiral Park said. Why should we save them? Because if they fall, we're next, Dr. Lim replied. And because saving lives is the right thing to do. Secretary Nam added, our defensive capabilities have improved, but we can't face this threat alone. We need the Council's resources, even if their technology is inferior. President Song was quiet for a long moment, staring at the tactical displays showing the approaching doom. Finally, she spoke. Send a reply to the Council. Tell them we're coming. The message that reached the Galactic Council was brief. Humanity hears your call. We are coming. In the Great Hall, the announcement brought a mixture of relief and humiliation. They had rejected humanity as too chaotic to be trusted. Now that same chaos might be their only hope for survival. The question was whether human adaptability could overcome a threat that had consumed 1,000 galaxies before theirs. The war for the galaxy was about to begin. The Devourers struck the outer systems first, exactly as predicted. Colony Defense Leader Pixtel of the Aquatic Federations watched helplessly from her command ship as they consumed the mining world of Kepler 442b. The process was horrifying in its efficiency. The Devourer ships landed on the planet's surface and began converting everything, rock, metal, atmosphere, even the colonists who couldn't escape in time, into raw materials. Within 6 hours, where a thriving world had existed, there was only empty space and dozens of new enemy vessels. Fleet status? Pixtal asked her tactical officer. 200 ships engaging the enemy. We've destroyed 12 of their vessels, but... The officer's voice trailed off as her readings updated. Ma'am, the destroyed ships are rebuilding themselves from debris. They're using our destroyed vessels as materials. Pixtal felt her gills flutter with panic. How could they fight an enemy that grew stronger from every battle? Pull back to defensive positions around Kepler 440. Send emergency signals to the Council fleet. But even as her ships retreated, Pixtal knew they were only delaying the inevitable. The Devourers had consumed 1,000 galaxies. Nothing the Council could do would stop them. Then her sensors detected something impossible. Ships were emerging from hyperspace behind the Devourer fleet. Human ships. But unlike any she had ever seen, Admiral Yoon Min-jae stood on the bridge of the HSS Defiance, watching the tactical display with calm concentration. His ship was the newest design in the human fleet, built using technologies developed during their year of isolation. Target analysis? He asked his tactical officer, Captain Osunghi. Devourer vessels show adaptive defensive systems. They're modifying their armor to resist our initial weapon signatures. Then we adapt faster. The Defiance and her sister ships opened fire, but not with conventional weapons. The energy beams that struck the Devourer vessels changed frequency and intensity every millisecond, guided by quantum consciousness networks that thought faster than biological minds could follow. The Devourer's adaptive systems tried to compensate, but the human weapons evolved faster than they could adapt. Where Devourer ships had shrugged off Council fire, human weapons tore through their hulls like paper. "Sir," O reported, "the destroyed Devourer material isn't regenerating. Our quantum disruption fields are preventing them from rebuilding." Admiral Yoon smiled grimly. "Good. Signal the fleet, begin Phoenix Protocol deployment." Across the human fleet, ships began linking their consciousness networks. Individual vessels became nodes in a single, vast intelligence that could process information and adapt strategies at impossible speeds. Captain Kim Dae-ho, now commanding the HSS Resilience, felt his mind expand as his ship connected to the network. Suddenly he could see the battle from 1,000 perspectives simultaneously. Every enemy movement, every weapon adaptation, every tactical possibility became clear. The battle for Kepler 440 lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the Devourer advance force had been completely destroyed. Their matter converted into additional human ships using the same consumption technology they had used on planets. But Admiral Yoon knew this was only the beginning. The real Devourer fleet was still approaching, and it was 1,000 times larger than what they had just faced. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council watched the battle reports with amazement and growing hope. The humans had not just stopped the Devourers, they had defeated them decisively. High Chancellor Veltus rose from his throne to address the chamber. "It appears that human chaos is more effective against this threat than our traditional methods." Speaker Xiphon's light pulsed with what might have been embarrassment. "Perhaps we underestimated the value of adaptability, but the celebration was short-lived. Long-range sensors detected the main Devourer fleet, still 6 weeks away but massive beyond comprehension. 500,000 ships, each one larger than a space station. Defense Coordinator Velthak presented the stark mathematics. Human forces total approximately 100,000 vessels. Enemy forces outnumber us 5 to 1, with individual ships averaging 10 times the mass of our largest vessels. "What are human recommendations?" asked Emergency Leader Morden. The answer came from Admiral Park Tae-jun, speaking via hologram from Earth. "We need every ship, every resource, and every mind in the galaxy working together. The Phoenix Protocol can work, but only if we have the raw materials and energy production of all Council species." "What do you require?" Veltus asked. "Complete integration of all military forces under unified command, shared technology databases, and most importantly, every species must contribute their unique capabilities to the collective defense." Dr. Shin Yuna, humanity's new chief scientist, appeared on another hologram. "We've developed quantum evolution weapons that can adapt faster than Devourer defenses, but we need crystalline Confederation quantum cores for power, Vorthak energy conduits for distribution, and insectoid nanotechnology for manufacturing." Speaker Xiphon's light flickered rapidly. "You're asking us to abandon the independence we've maintained for millennia." "No," Admiral Park replied. "We're asking you to achieve unity you've never imagined. Not submission, cooperation at a level that transcends individual species." The debate continued for hours, but the mathematics were undeniable. Alone, each species would fall. Together, they might have a chance. The next 6 weeks transformed the galaxy. Human consciousness networks linked with ethereal mental abilities and crystalline quantum processing. Vorthak industrial capacity, combined with insectoid manufacturing precision and human innovation. Engineer Choi, 1J worked 18-hour days on the Phoenix Protocol's final component, a weapon that didn't just adapt to enemy defenses, but convinced them to shut down voluntarily. It required understanding Devourer psychology, technology, and strategic thinking all at once. "The Devourers consume and adapt," he explained to his mixed-species engineering team, "but they've never encountered prey that adapts faster than they do. They've never faced unified resistance from an entire galaxy. Marine Commander Kojinsu trained mixed-species boarding parties in human tactical doctrine. Don't follow the plan, he taught alien soldiers who had spent centuries following precise military protocols. Adapt to what happens. Think like your enemy, then think one step beyond them. Pilot An Mirai developed new fighting techniques that combined human instinct with alien technology. Her squadron included crystalline navigators whose quantum minds could calculate hyperspace jumps instantaneously, insectoid gunners whose compound eyes could track dozens of targets simultaneously, and Vortak engineers whose scaled hands could repair damage without needing to land. When the main Devourer fleet finally arrived, they faced something unprecedented, an entire galaxy that fought as a single organism. The battle raged for 72 hours. Devourer ships tried to consume human vessels, only to find that the ship's quantum consciousness made them impossible to process. Human weapons evolved faster than Devourer defenses could adapt. Council resources supported human innovation, while human adaptability unlocked alien potential that had been dormant for millennia. The turning point came when Engineer Choi activated the Phoenix Protocol's final stage. Instead of destroying the Devourer fleet, the weapon convinced them that this galaxy was defended by something they had never encountered before, unity that transcended individual survival. For the first time in their existence, the Devourers faced prey that became stronger through cooperation, rather than weaker through consumption. Impossible, transmitted the Devourer command ship. You should fragment under pressure. You should compete for survival. Why do you strengthen each other? Admiral Lim Junho, now commanding the unified galactic fleet from the human flagship HSS Unity, responded personally. Because we learned that our differences make us stronger, not weaker. Because chaos and order together achieve what neither can alone. The Devourer fleet retreated into dark space, transmitting warnings to other extragalactic threats. This galaxy was defended by something new, something that could not be consumed or conquered. In the rebuilt council chambers 6 months later, Ambassador Wu Hyunjin stood where Lee Minho once had. But now the human section was not isolated. It was integrated with seats for mixed-species delegations throughout the hall. The new Galactic Compact was unlike any treaty in galactic history. Instead of limiting species development, it encouraged it. Instead of maintaining separation, it fostered cooperation. President Park Ji-hoon of the Terran Federation, flanked by Chancellor Velnara of the reformed Vorthak hegemony, and Speaker Kylnath of the United Ethereal Crystalline Collective, signed the compact with a simple statement: "Today, we choose to explore the universe together." Dr. Kim Ariam, now Director of Galactic Sciences, presented the first joint research projects. Human adaptability would be combined with alien expertise to unlock discoveries none could achieve alone. But the most ambitious project was yet to come. Captain Seo Minho, son of the late Admiral Lee Minho, prepared his ship for humanity's greatest expedition yet, a joint mission to explore the spaces between galaxies, crewed by beings from every council species. "The universe is vast and dangerous," he announced at the mission launch ceremony. "But we no longer face it as separate species competing for survival. We face it as one people united in curiosity and courage."